Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brooklyn Tea Party Zoom meeting for April 21st, 2024. I'm your host, Glenn Nocera, president of the Brooklyn Tea Party. I just wanted to introduce our guest speaker for today, U.S. Senate candidate Cara Castronuova, who's running for U.S. Senate in New York State. And we're very pleased to have her join us here today. And Cara, before we start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, like what you do, and how'd you come to this realization that you wanted to run for U.S. Senate for New York State?
Sure. Thank you so much, Glenn, for having me and everybody in the Brooklyn Tea Party. So I'm Cara Castronuova. I live here not far from Brooklyn on Long Island on the borderline of Queens. I'm a lifetime New Yorker. I'm a journalist, an investigative journalist. I worked for Newsmax up until 2 months ago when I declared my candidacy. When you're on Newsmax, just like with Joe Pinion, you have to step down to run for office. I currently write for the Gateway Pundit, but I'm also on a leave of absence because campaigning has literally become my life. It's a 24-hour, if there was more than 24 hours in the day, I would be using it to get on the ballot, which is extremely difficult, and I'll get into that in a little while. But I'm a former champion boxer, TV personality, and really what got me into politics was in 2016, I switched over from Democrat to Republican. I never really paid much attention, just growing up here in New York, as everybody on this call is probably aware, you're by default Democrat unless you start paying attention, which I did when Donald Trump came into office. And then I really started paying attention and looking at policies and looking at, things that I could actually align with. And I realized that the Democrat Party was not something I actually aligned with. So I went on to vote for Donald Trump that year. And then in 2020, really became mortified by what was going on with the mandates in New York after the lockdowns. At the time, I was working at some really high-end gyms as a trainer, and really lost my job, lost my work, was unable to work because of all of the shutdowns in New York. And I started a group called Liberate New York, where we were the first group to do a rally up in Albany. We went up there, we were shouting from the top of our lungs into megaphones in front of Cuomo's mansion and in front of the buildings up there where all the politicians were sitting in, or actually they were zooming into, and saying open New York, and this is unconstitutional. We don't believe in this stuff. And it seems like so long ago, but that this really happened in New York when they actually shut down the state. And then soon after, there were vaccine passports, which I was very much against. So that's how I really started getting into activism and realizing that it's really important that the people have a voice, that regular people get involved and really get involved in the government. And, we the people are the ones who run the government. And we were there demanding that Cuomo step down. Obviously, what's happening now is we have somebody worse in there, which is unfortunate. And one of the reasons I'm starting to realize why we have these terrible politicians in office on both the Republican and the Democrat side is because of ballot access here in New York. And really, voters don't have a choice. And I'll get into that later. But I really just became an activist for medical freedom, which is a huge thing that I would still continue to fight for as a senator. I don't believe in forced vaccinations. I don't believe in the fact that a lot of kids in New York that go to school have to get a lot of vaccinations, and a lot of the things that they're doing in New York that I find to be unconstitutional. Fast forward to the election. The election with Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I was there covering January 6th as a journalist, and really saw what happened that day to be not what the news was reporting. I became frustrated. I found out that there were political prisoners in Washington, D.C., and what I call the D.C. Gulag, where there's men down there that still haven't had a trial in 3 years. They've been in jail since January 6th, behind bars in solitary confinement with no trial. So I started advocating for them before anybody would even utter the word January 6th. It was like a taboo subject. Nobody wanted to speak about. I went down, I did a rally in D.C., a Free the January 6th Prisoners rally, where we're outside the FBI building, yelling from the top of our voices again, free the prisoners, free the prisoners. American political prisoners are here in the United States, and nobody believed it. Nobody believed it was true. Now people are talking about it. People are aware of it. So I really feel like I brought awareness to that subject. And then I started working for Newsmax, and I started working for the Gateway Pundit, which was a dream job to me, both of them. But one of the real issues I think with media is you only reach a certain audience. Me as a journalist for the quote unquote right side media, I'm only able to reach people on the right. And if you're a journalist, I guess for CNN, you're only able to reach people on the left. And that's frustrating because I feel like our message, for example, something like medical freedom, we were painted like complete, they said we were whatever they said we were, conspiracy theorists. I feel like if we were able to get our message across to to the rest of the media, the mainstream media, we would actually be accepted and people would realize that we had a point and there were human beings that just want medical freedom. So I ran for office. I felt like running for office would give me a bigger platform, a bigger voice to fight for things that I really, really feel are important, like the Constitution. And I ran for New York State Assembly in 2022 here in Elmont, New York, where I live. It's a minority neighborhood. It's 20%, I think 22% tops Republicans registered here. I won 43% of the vote. I didn't win the actual election. Most people thought it was impossible, similarly to the way that they think the Senate race is impossible to win. And if the candidate is actually going to win it, it has to be a candidate that's actually stands a chance against Kirsten Gillibrand. But when I ran in 2022, one of the things I did that I think the Republican Party lacks tremendously was I really outreach to minorities. My community, like I said, there's no way I could win it without getting votes from minorities. My community is a lot of Haitian, a lot of Orthodox Jewish, a lot of Muslim, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Asian. So I went into these communities and I did outreach, and that's why I did really, really well. One of the regrets I have was not doing more outreach, which again, like the Republican Party will tell you, don't wake up the Democrats, don't wake them up that, we don't want to remind them that there's an election. And I thought that was really foolish. So I was half listening to them in one ear because I had the establishment backing at the time. And in the other ear, I was like, you know what, I really need to reach out to these communities. And I did. Fast forward to 2024, I went to the Bronx and I did a news package that went viral for Newsmax, where I went and I stood on a street corner. Nobody wanted to come with me to the South Bronx, so I didn't even have a cameraman that day. And I interviewed people, and really I was there to ask them what they thought about the economy and if Joe Biden was doing a good job. And I was shocked when everybody there in the Bronx, literally anybody that came up to me said that they can't stand Joe Biden. They literally have Joe Biden derangement syndrome. They couldn't even listen to his name without flipping out, and that they were voting for Trump. And I felt like I was in a real parallel universe because they were like, Trump 2024, Trump 20, and they were saying this and they were saying it without fear. Like I remember in 2020, 2016, when even us, we wouldn't shout Trump 2024 in New York City out of fear that somebody would punch us in the face. But these, men and women in the Bronx, these minority communities were saying Trump 2024, we want to vote for Trump. We're voting Republican this year. A lot of them are under the impression, because the Democrat Party tells them that they have to vote Democrat if they're registered as a Democrat, which obviously isn't true. And that, people need to be educated on that. I think it's important. And I realized that at that time, I said to myself, this is the perfect time for a Senate candidate, the right candidate, to actually win, to beat Kirsten Gillibrand this year. And it has to be the right candidate. It has to be somebody that could cross over all of these minority voters, all of these people in the inner city that are saying that they want to vote Republican, but they really kind of have this like image in their mind of what a Republican is, what a Republican looks like, what a Republican thinks. That's completely wrong, because I used to think the same way when I was younger, and then I realized that I was being lied to. So I feel like I'm the person that could go into the Bronx again, that could go into Harlem, that could go into Queens, and really educate Democrats. A lot of them, like I said, unfortunately think that because they're registered as Democrats, they have to vote for Democrats. And cross these people over to cross them over the finish line, get some more votes for Trump here in New York. I know he really wants to win the minority communities, also help the down ticket, and actually have a senator that's from New York that's a Republican for the first time in a very long time. So that's what really pushed me to run for Senate this year. So currently here I am on this call with you guys. I just came back from Yates County, which is about 7-hour drive from here. I got back yesterday. I drove there the day before. So this has become a full-time job. And not only is it the campaigning, but right now it's the ballot access. Because while I got, thank you, Glenn, for helping me get some signatures, by the way. Well, I got over 15,000 signatures required, which is a ridiculous burden to begin with, and I think unconstitutional. And I could get into that if you guys are interested. Really learning as an investigative journalist, like I'm a type of person who likes to just immerse myself in something and then be able to tell the public about it. So I'm immersed in this race right now. And I could say that the way it's set up here in New York for people that are not the establishment pick, which will always be a compromise pick for obvious reasons, they owe their life to 3 men who are choosing them and putting them into office. They will never be accountable to the people, ever. It's impossible. So now I'm realizing kind of firsthand what the issues here in New York are. It's systematic. It's the fact that they, both parties refuse to let candidates onto the ballot that are not already compromised candidates, because they have the backing of that party, and they make it very difficult for any type of populist or any type of regular person that's not a millionaire. And even they make it difficult for millionaires. But if you're not a millionaire, you stand really no shot at getting on the ballot, and the people stand no shot at being able to vote for somebody that they think is similar to them and that has a similar voice to them.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of pitfalls for people that want to run for office, a regular citizen to run. There's a lot of roadblocks in the way. Now, mentioning about when your video went viral in the Bronx, recently we had President Trump visit that bodega that was involved with the worker that was attacked I think a year or so ago. And with Alvin Bragg, what a wonderful DA, guys, right? Isn't he wonderful? So he went there, and you could see the crowd outside the bodega, and you can see the children, there's kids, young kids, 10 years old or whatever, saying, "We love you, Trump. We love you, Trump." Now, you can't really stage stuff like this, and it's pure, and you could see that there is an uprising, so to speak, in the minority communities to actually break away from the disgustingness of the Democrat Party. We as Republicans have to fight for those votes. So we need to do that. That's how you get 43% of your vote when you ran for assembly in 2022. We got to reach out, because me, on a personal level, I've been registering people left and right, just for my job, and turning people that were never registered voters or were Democrats, and they happen to be African American or Spanish, and I'm changing them to Republican. And so it takes foot soldiers, so to speak. You, I, people in this audience, get voter registration forms. You can get them at your local library, or you could ask the Board of Elections to send you some, and register people to vote, and get them as Republicans, because we need living Republicans, as you know, Cara, that we need living Republicans to sign the petitions.
Right.
And without that, we can't get on the ballot. And could you explain your experience more in depth of the whole process, and what the establishment Republican Party, what their rules are in place to prevent citizen candidates basically to run?
Right. And I'm planning on writing a very, very long, detailed article on this in the near future, just because it's really such an issue that nobody is aware of. People ask themselves all the time, how did we get like these two choices, this one Democrat, this one Republican? Both of them are bad choices generally in like these state elections. And it's because of the parties. It's because of the really onerous rules and laws that were passed here by the Democratic legislature and signed into law by the Democratic governor, that New York and other states, like other very liberal states like California and Illinois, have very horrific ballot access laws. Whereas a place like Texas, you just have to pay $500 or a small fee to get onto the ballot, and then you let the people decide, like the founding fathers wanted. Here in New York, they set up this really, really rigged system that it makes it impossible for an average person like me, you, or anybody on this call, just a regular person who makes a regular income, somebody that might be a father or a mother or a mechanic. And this is, I truly believe in my heart, the way that the founding fathers designed it. It was so that regular people could leave their jobs, serve a few terms in office, represent the people that that surround them in their community, and then go back home and not serve a million terms in office. And the way that it's set up here in New York is very difficult. There's a thing, as Glenn knows, called the weighted vote here in New York. To start, you have to go to the convention, the New York State Convention. You need to be nominated by one of the 62 counties. Now, keep in mind, there's a chairman that reigns over all 62 counties. Currently, his name is Ed Cox. He is the chairman of the party. So basically, before going to the convention, it's pretty much decided who the candidate's going to be. And that's generally decided by, in this case, in my opinion, it was Ed Cox who said, you know what, we're going to go with this guy, Mike Sapricone, and that's it. And a lot of the counties are fearful of stepping away from who the guy at the top, I guess Ed Cox, says that we're going to be voting for. And there's a couple other people in the background that influence it. So we went up there to the convention. I was nominated by Staten Island, which is as you know, a very red borough, the reddest borough in in the city, and one of the boroughs that I really have done a lot of rallies and advocacy work on against the illegal immigration shelters, for medical freedom, and everything else that I think a lot of people here are in a, kind of in agreement on. So they nominated me just because I've been there for doing so much community work. And I was seconded by Yates County, which is again, I went upstate to Yates County this weekend, and the people upstate New York really are in line with what I am. And that's just simple freedom and simple liberty, and really just for the Constitution, and just leave me alone. Like, don't get involved in my life with the government. They're just such simply wonderful people that I feel like they don't get representation, because they call us down here the downstate people. And they think that they were so shocked to meet me that I was from downstate, and they thought I was normal. They kind of look at us like we look at liberals, like, oh my God, like they're not normal. They're from downstate. They must be kind of rhinos. So I was seconded by Yates County, and that allowed me to take the floor and actually speak at the convention, which means that people could vote and decide all the 62 counties and their delegates. It was a room of about 200 people if they wanted to give me their portion of the weighted vote. Like I said before, it was already decided beforehand that Mike Sapercone was going to be the nominee. I was there along with another gentleman named Josh Eisen, who also collected signatures as well. So they made it so that Mike Sapercone got over 80% of the weighted vote, basically icing out any type of primary challenger, which I thought was very silly, because the Republican Party needs primaries to get attention drawn to it. Like, people like watching primaries. It engages the voters, it activates the Republican voter base, and it also showcases to Democrats, like, wow, there's different types of Republicans. It showcases that to independents. People become engaged in the process. But for some reason, the party here in New York is like just bent set on coronating a candidate, which is, in my opinion, like, not democratic. It's against the it's against everything that America stands for. So Mike Sapercone was chosen, and that put the burden on me and anybody else that wanted to run for office to get 15,000 signatures, which I'll get into in a second. But Mike Sapercone, like I said, got 80% of the weighted vote, and multiple people came up to me after the actual the vote, and they said, we really wanted to vote for you, but we couldn't. This is delegates, this is chair people who literally said, you're the best candidate to beat Kirsten Gillibrand. We don't think that Mike Sapercone could beat her, but we had no choice but to vote for him, which is so, like, insane to me that this is the way it is, that they know they're putting in a losing candidate. And I'll say it, like I said to a few people recently, like, the Republican Party in this state will fight, like bare knuckle fight, to stay in second place. They'll fight to the death to be in second place. It's disgusting. They're literally just happy with being in second place and getting their little slice of the freaking pie, whatever that means, like financially, to a few people. And I think it's utterly disgusting that they throw the rest of us under the bus. There's so much people here in the state. There's so much at stake. And for a few guys at the very top to be choosing a candidate they know to be a complete loser, I'm sorry, but it's the truth. This guy is not going to beat Kirsten Gillibrand. There's no way in hell, for multiple reasons, really makes me sick. And if there was a candidate in there that was actually a winning candidate, I would say, you know what, let me go back to journalism. I'm really good at exposing the government. I'm really good at giving a voice to people that have none. That's something I love to do. I wouldn't be in this really, really sweating and blood, sweat, and tears. Like, this has taken over my life, because now this is like something that I really, really want, because I really want to obviously expose the party for what it's doing. And secondly, and I mean, obviously, firstly, most importantly, represent the Republican Party this year as the Senate candidate and beat Kirsten Gillibrand. And in a year, I think that there's a really, really good chance of the right candidate beating her. So the 15,000 signatures, as you know, and I don't know if anybody on this call has ever tried to gather signatures, and you know how difficult it is. It's like really, really difficult, especially in the districts that we live in. I went into the Bronx, like I said, the Bronx is very much ready to vote Republican, but there's no registered voters that are Republican in the Bronx. So the only signatures you could get are from registered Republicans. And it's very difficult to walk around the city and get these signatures. It's very difficult to knock on apartment buildings and get into the apartment buildings and get signatures. So that's the challenge in the 5 boroughs. More so the 4 boroughs, not Staten Island. Staten Island, I got a lot of signatures, but this all has to be done in basically a month's time. And as you know, the month of March is one of the most torrentially downpour rain. Like, there was so much rain on the weekends. The weekends are the really only days that you could go out and gather signatures in bulk at events like parades. A lot of them got rained out. Nobody answers their door anymore because of the Ring doorbells, or in general because they're afraid to open their door because of crime. Nobody on the street is a registered Republican. An average person an average signature gatherer, I've gotten affidavits because I'm now actually suing the establishment Republican Party in federal court. Um, affidavits that 5 signatures are a lot to get in 1 hour. A lot. Most people don't even get any signatures in an hour. Imagine now you have to get 15,000, and what they say, everybody says, don't come in without 30 or 45,000 because the rules are so arbitrary that the Republican Party will find a way to kick you off the ballot. They'll find a way. There's a lot of traps that are set up on these on these petitions that people fall into that will get their signature deleted. So come in with 30,000. So 30,000 signatures mean you have to get 800 signatures in one day. Every day you have to get 800 signatures in order to be able to get enough signatures to gain ballot access, which is obviously impossible. It's crazy. And if you're not a millionaire or a very wealthy person that could fund this, and this has been done in history, I'll fast forward to the year 2000 when John McCain and Steve Forbes, a legitimate billionaire, and John McCain, a millionaire and a famous politician, were unable to get on the New York ballot. They spent $1 million. One spent 700, one spent $1 million to get on the ballot. George Bush was the coronated candidate by the New York State Party at that time. They didn't want these two guys to have access to the ballot in the presidential race. And they pulled their tricks and they got them kicked off the ballot for not having enough signatures. So a millionaire and a billionaire literally couldn't get enough signatures to get on the ballot in New York. The requirement was 15,500, 500 more than I have to get. And they sued in court. They sued in the Eastern District in Brooklyn, where I sued. They sued the chairman of the party, and they sued the committee, and they sued the Board of Elections for ballot access. The judge at that time, who was a Ronald Reagan appointee, deemed what he called the petition gathering scheme to be unconstitutional. And he said because of that, they were able to get on the ballot that year. So they had these great lawyers that got them ballot access because the judge said it's unconstitutional. Unfortunately, they didn't follow through with it once they got ballot access. Like most selfish politicians, they didn't fight afterwards and say we want the rules and laws changed. So the rules, including the town city trap and the county trap, remain on the petitions, and they never got changed. And that was deemed unconstitutional in the Eastern District. If any of you have seen a petition, you know that there's a box at the end that says enter your county, town, city. That is basically called the town city trap that 99% of the people that sign these petitions fall for. If you live in Long Island, they ask you your town, and you say my town is Garden City or Roslyn. That's incorrect. You have to say it's the town of North Hempstead. Nobody knows that. Nobody would ever do that. Most people that say they're from Staten Island, they have to write Richmond County. So there's all of these traps set up that make that signature automatically invalid and scratched off of the petition. So they're literally trying to circumvent the will of the people, circumvent the will of the voter and the person who's signing these petitions, to make it impossible with all of these traps that they set on these petitions for somebody to actually get on the ballot. So currently, down in my living room, I have boxes of what are called general objections. And I'm sorry, specific objections to my petitions, where if somebody didn't properly spell something out, if somebody maybe signed their signature slightly differently than what is on their ID card from 30 years ago, if somebody wrote the wrong town or the wrong city, if somebody didn't write in the word street, they're automatically scratching those off, and I have to go to court and meticulously fight. And it's about if you want to get a lawyer for this, it costs $30,000 minimum for each and every one of these signatures to get on the ballot. So that's the first legal hurdle that I have to get through, and this is taking over my life. The second one is I'm now being sued. They didn't think I was going to get the signatures, and I did. And my signatures are really legit, and they're really good. And they know that there's a chance that I'll go to the Board of Elections, and the Board of Elections is going to say, you know what, she has ballot access, her signatures are good. So their backup plan, I find out what they do here in New York State, and it's not just to me, it's to every single non-establishment candidate, is the candidate and the two objectors. There's always two objectors, and the people who are behind the two objectors are Republican Party establishments, and they have, okay, so in my case, they actually put their name on it. One of my general objectors is Chairman Nunziato from Queens. He's literally objecting to my petitions, along with a Board of Elections worker named Carl Oliviato, who is in Queens. So besides these two people, a Board of Elections worker and a chairman of the party, not one person in the general public have objected to my petitions. So it's literally the party trying to get me thrown off the ballot. Usually they try to hide it better. In CD3, Congressional District 3, where Swazi is up now to run against, and it was the old Santos seat, there's 4 guys who are petitioning, who got on the ballot. I mean, who got enough signatures to get on the ballot. They're all being objected to by 2 guys who have lawyers from the Republican Party establishment. So these guys didn't just wake up one morning and say, let me just challenge these four guys in CD3. It's the Republican Party who puts them up to it, and they pay for their attorney, and they try to get these guys thrown off the ballot. As a backup plan, they sue you in the New York State the New York State Supreme Court. So now all of a sudden I get a notification in the mail that I have to be in court tomorrow in Albany at 11 a.m. Out of the blue, I have to drive myself up to Albany or get a $20,000 lawyer to represent me. I can't campaign when I'm doing all this stuff, by the way. I'm being sued by Mike Sapricone, my opponent in the Supreme Court, who says that my whole entire petition is fraudulent and I should be thrown off the ballot. So this is plan B for the Republican Party. What they do to, if just in case you get through the Board of Elections, they could throw you off the ballot by just deeming your whole thing fraudulent and hoping you don't have enough money to go to the Supreme Court, or that you mess up representing yourself and you could get thrown off the ballot. So that's what they do here in New York. Most people don't survive it, like I said, unless you're a millionaire or unless you're already in the establishment and you know the way this works, or you stand no shot. One of the things I think that make my case really strong for my federal lawsuit. So I'm a step ahead of them. I'm suing them in federal court. I'm duplicating the lawsuit that was called the Molinari v. Powers lawsuit that John McCain was so successful in bringing to the court. He sued the chairman of the party at the time, who was Powers, and he sued the New York State party as well, and he gained ballot access, and he did it in the Eastern District. I have a similar lawsuit right now where I'm suing Chairman Cox. It's just business. Like they say, it's just business, nothing personal, Chairman Cox, but you know what you're doing is wrong. And what the Board of Elections is doing by letting this stuff pass through is wrong. So we're suing them in court, and what makes my case even more unique, I think, than McCain's opponent, George Bush, at the time, had to get signatures. He was a millionaire and he was also backed by the party, so it wasn't that hard for him to do. But in this case, Mike Sapricone did not have to get a signature. The party basically exempted him from the rules. They've exempted themselves from the rules, and he didn't have to gain any signatures. That is not equal protection. That is not constitutional. I'm going to try to take this to the Supreme Court and say that, why is the establishment pick not have to get 15,000 signatures? And I'll tell you why. They know it's really hard. They don't want to expire and exhaust their volunteers and their councilmen that they have walking out there. They know that the public can then challenge their signatures, that I, in retaliation, could challenge Mike Sapricone's signatures, and half of them will be fraudulent, more than likely. So they don't want the same burden that they put on us to do, and they've exempted him and themselves from having to get those signatures, which in my opinion is incredibly unconstitutional and makes this a very special case. I think that the Supreme Court should hear, if I could get the right attorney to pitch it to them, which I'm working on right now, and to write as an emergency, because it's about ballot access and it's about getting my name on the petition. I'm sorry, on the ballot in the near, I'd say, coming weeks. We have to get this done. So we're filing that as an emergency to the Supreme Court. As of right now, I'm technically on the ballot unless they throw me off, and that's all to be litigated in the next couple of weeks. And while we're doing this ridiculous litigation, in a similar way that Andrew Giuliani had to go through, you can't campaign. It gives your opponent an unfair advantage. He has been campaigning since February, where he's getting endorsements, he's fundraising, he's he's out on the media speaking as a candidate, where I can't do that because I'm tied up in getting these ridiculous signatures and fighting now in court, and it takes over your whole life. You feel like you're a chicken kind of running around. It was so frustrating, and the courts actually said that the petition gathering scheme is an undue burden, meaning it's absolutely irrelevant, it's arbitrary. How many signatures you could get and how many people you could hire to get signatures for you has nothing to do with your moral compass. It has nothing to do how you're going to serve as a politician. It's a completely arbitrary task designed to keep people off the ballot. And the last thing I wanted to say was, I didn't pay a single dollar to a single signature worker. Every single one of my signatures were from the blood, sweat, and tears of volunteers and people that believed in me and people that know the work I've done for freedom, and I've done for medical freedom, for January 6ers, all of the work I've done here in New York State. So people believed in me, and I got signatures sent to my house. They're still coming to my house. And the judge actually told me to hang on to them, which I thought was funny, that are postmarked signatures, because people were sending them to me from all over New York State. So I had signatures from 19 of the 26 counties, more than enough signatures to get me on the ballot, from people as far upstate as Buffalo and Yates County and Rochester County and Utica, people I don't even know that just sent them to my house. So it really was a grassroots, a populist type campaign where I didn't pay a single worker. One of the other guys who turned in signatures, Josh Eisen, he paid a tremendous amount of money to workers, $25 to $50 an hour. I'm not a millionaire, so I can't do that. So all of my signatures came from people, which makes me want to fight harder to stay on the ballot, because I know the blood, sweat, and tears that people put into getting these. People I don't even know from upstate sent me hundreds at a time. And to me, that makes me want to fight harder, because people up there really feel like they have no voice. People like the ones on this call feel like they have no voice. And I really feel like that's unfortunate. And this is something that I really want to fight to the end for.
Now, the other candidate that you mentioned, Josh, did he also get? Is he about to be thrown off the ballot
As
too?
far as Right. As far as I know, and this is coming from Chairman Nunziato, who, there's a recording out there of a call he was on with somebody talking about this. I guess, maybe isn't that aware of the rules. As a chairman, he told John Tobacco that he said to him, he personally went out and walked and got Mike Sapercone's signatures, which is insane because Mike Sapercone didn't have to get signatures, so he
Right.
clearly is a credible source. But he also said another chairman was going to go after Josh Eisen. As far as I know, because I FOIA'd the information, Josh is being challenged by two people in Westchester County. They're probably tied to the party. I haven't had a chance to research that because I'm so wrapped up in my own legal issues. So he's being challenged, and they're trying to throw him off the ballot as well. They try to throw off any, I'm not saying that I believe Josh Eisen is a good candidate or not. I don't really know as much about him as I would like to. All I know is that anybody that is not the establishment candidate will be challenged, will be served with a Supreme Court, document saying show up and your opponent is suing you to get you thrown off the ballot, and they will fight to the death to keep you off the ballot. They will
It's
call you.
it's absolutely ridiculous because in certain states do it differently. You have to post a bond, like you get like a $5,000 bond. It depends on what race it is, and you don't have to get this amount of signatures, or you need a certain amount, like a lower percentage. I think we need 5% of the registered Republicans or whatever it is on the local levels, and yours is 15,000, but you have to have what, 100 signatures at least in 16 counties, is it?
Right. It's 13, and you actually have to have like really like 300 because they'll scratch them off. Like I got these meticulous signatures from Yates County, and just because somebody does, a typical human error, like if somebody X's something out and then they rewrite it, or even just put it, it's the 23rd and they just X the off of the 3 and they put the 4, they just scratch it off. They say, oh, they didn't initial it. Like, how is a regular person, like an 80-year-old gun owner, for example, like I have a lot of those upstate New York that are sending me in their petitions, like who's walking with his wife or driving rather, because they go from farm to farm, supposed to know that, it's just like that his signature is going to get knocked off because he didn't initial when he realized, oh, it's not the 24th, this is 23rd.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
he X'd
Right.
out. Right. The littlest things they'll find off to defy the will of the people. It's really the intent of the voter. And that's what's been found in a lot of precedented cases. Like if the intent of the voter was that they want this person on the ballot, and the intent of the signer was, this is what we want. Like this has been decided in a lot of courts, and I hope that it will help me. For example, when somebody primaried Nicole Maliotakis, he went to court and it was actually favorable on his side because he was there in Staten Island, where the judges are more fair. They tried to throw him off the ballot because people were writing Staten Island. Like if you're from Staten Island, obviously you're going to say Staten Island, New York.
Right. No,
And they
no,
said, no, it has to say Richmond County. It has to say Richmond. And they tried to disqualify his entire petition because most people and a lot of his witnesses wrote Richmond County. And they're like, no, you have to write New York City. It's not Richmond. Like whatever the little arbitrary indiscrepancy is, they'll try to scratch it off. So the judge actually ruled in his favor and said, you know what? It's the intent of the signer. They obviously want him on the ballot. This is the intent of the signer. So there is precedented law, but again, it takes an incredible amount of mind power, lawyers to do this for you. I'm trying to do it myself, pro se, and I think I'm doing a great job. But I do have lawyers assisting me, and it's not cheap. It's really not. And like I really think that they just bank on the fact that you're not going to have like adequate funding for legal representation, and you're just going to throw in the hat and say forget it, or you're going to make an error. Or like when I went to court in the federal courthouse, two deep state lawyers walk in. They literally look like, I said, like the Men in Black, like wearing these dark suits. Like one of them is from Letitia James' office. So Letitia James' office, it's one of her main lawyers represents the BOE. And then it's Ed Cox's lawyer. And they're like two peas in a pod in there, deep state lawyers. And I'm standing there arguing with them in front of the judge. And we did such a great job. And we had a lot of like patriots from here in New York in the courtroom watching. We had so many people, they actually had to fill the jury box. So anybody here on my next court date, I'll let everybody know, you should come watch it because people said it was fascinating to watch. So I'm representing myself, and my co-defendant, I mean, I'm sorry, my co-plaintiff on it is John Tobacco, who's a voter, and he's actually also a host on Newsmax. And it's similar to the McCain lawsuit where McCain's supporters and said, we're being disenfranchised. We're voters. We want to vote for McCain, but the party is making it impossible. So they were able to join the lawsuit and say, as supporters who want to vote for McCain, the party is violating our constitutional rights because they're making it impossible for us to actually vote for somebody like a viable candidate that we want to vote for.
Right.
So it's me and it's somebody who wants to vote for me. So like I said, we're trying to do it like the McCain case as close as possible. And he was there. So it was me and him against these two deep state lawyers. And I think the lawyers were shocked by how prepared we were. Really prepared. We came really very much prepared and made really good arguments. And everybody in the courthouse, it was funny, we're cheering and clapping like it was a rally every time we said something good to the where the judge finally snapped and he's like, be quiet. And then he kind of felt bad for yelling at everybody. And he's like, all right, they're doing a good job on their own, guys. You don't have to clap. He kind of snapped because I don't think they're used to that. I mean, for me, it's accountability. I want the judge to see that there's people who care about ballot access, election integrity, and having a choice here in New York. And people are
Oh, it's
fed up.
very, it's very,
It's
people are
important.
fed up. It's very important. In 2000, I actually ran as a McCain delegate back in 2000. So I know what you're talking about in regards to that time period. And it's ridiculous. Look, people, this is supposed to be the United States of America, right? It's supposed to be the land of the free, right? It seems like it's a third world nation sometimes, like a tin pot dictatorship where you can't have your voice heard, especially in light of what Facebook does. You know what conservatives when you can't speak about during the pandemic. I'm an administrator of many Facebook pages, especially a Trump 2024 page. And my membership has not grown since he announced. It shot up to 53,000 members, and now we're lingering at 54,000 plus. But it has not jumped since he announced to be president because what Facebook does, it lowers it and it makes it where no one can see the page. And it's
Right.
absolutely disgusting. There's no freedom of speech basically in this country in the regards to on citizens that want to run for office or just to get your voice out there because if you were against the pandemic like I was, in regards to having a vaccine thrown into you without uh, any choice. A lot of people say my body, my choice, my healthcare decision when it comes to abortion, albeit whatever how you lean on whatever side of that issue. The same thing should apply to that issue because it's my body, my choice. Don't tell me I have to lose my job to have a untested vaccine that obviously is not a vaccine because you can still catch it and spread it to grandma. So we've been proven right that and plus you can't sue the vaccine companies if you had an adverse effect, and you still have to sign a waiver because it's still an experimental use. So people need to wake up and always fight for your rights. It's very important. That's why I commend you what you're doing because you're fighting to get on the ballot and you're doing what you could do as a citizen to get that ballot access, which is very important to future people to run for office. And you would make a wonderful candidate against Gillibrand. And people need to see that. And that's why we're glad that you came on to our call today or the Zoom meeting. And the next question I have for you is if you get on the ballot and you are the nominee for the Senate, God willing, what do you believe is one of the main issues New York State residents face that you could represent in the Senate?
Well, I think one of the main issues that New York State represents and really is kind of bridging both parties right now is everybody's really against the illegal immigration coming into New York State and depleting all the resources here. I think, like I said, when I went into the Bronx, that was one of the biggest complaints that the people had. I think it's really interesting how the parties have kind of merged on this. A lot of the minority communities feel like very betrayed by the government and really kind of like they're just being thrown under the bus for people who aren't from the United States. So they're up in arms and they're absolutely furious about it. And I think the Republican Party has kind of come around to saying, you know what, America first. We really, and I mean, a lot of Republicans already believe that, but a lot of people, what's come into their kind of language is that, what about our own vets? What about our own inner city communities? They should get the funding first. So I think that they're hearing that from Republicans and like, wow, Republicans actually care about us. They actually care about the minority communities. They think that we come before illegal immigrants. So I think that people don't realize on the Republican side that the Democrat side and the minority communities can hear that. They actually hear the Republicans kind of saying, why aren't we fixing our own inner cities? Why aren't we giving this to American citizens? That there's poor people out there that need these resources more so than people that are coming from another country. So I think that it's bridging the parties. Like I said, I think more people are going to vote for Republicans. It's something that I would like to fight for because I know how many people feel betrayed. I have a lot of family members in my own family that are, very low, low income and are frustrated because they can't afford groceries, and they're so confused, or they don't know, should they blame the grocery stores? Who's to blame for the fact that I can't even have enough groceries this week? Not realizing that maybe it's the administration you guys voted for. I think they're finally understanding that. And I think that's something that is very important to me, just because I feel the hurt around me of the average New Yorkers and the American citizens that feel really betrayed by the administration that we currently have, that is throwing them under the bus, literally, for people that aren't from this country, that are not legitimate United States citizens. So that's one of the biggest things that I want to fight for. And also, another thing to me, and like you hit on, Glenn, is free speech. Like, I really, really am appalled by what's going on in the country. I write for the Gateway Pundit, and we're involved in a lawsuit that just went before the Supreme Court. It's called the Biden v. Missouri case. And it looks like the traitors in the Supreme Court, sadly, Brett Kavanaugh, and I hope that I'm wrong on this, and are going to swing the vote. So the basis of this case, and it just needs legislation, I think, to be written about free speech, but they're saying that the government should be able to control social media. Basically, that what you just said, it's absolutely not a conspiracy theory. It's true. There's algorithms that are censoring you and that have censored the Gateway Pundit, hence why we're a co-plaintiff in the Biden v. Missouri case that went before the Supreme Court. Our editor-in-chief, Jim Hoft, was there in the Supreme Court with, Missouri, the Attorney General of Missouri, who sued the Biden administration for, during the pandemic and for other issues, were censoring American citizens, literally armbarring. I read all of the documents. They literally were telling Facebook and Twitter, like, you better, like, literally, like mobsters, like they're writing this on government emails, like, you better effing take this down right now, take this Tucker Carlson video down now, or heads will roll. We need this person censored right now, take this down now, it already has 40,000 views. Like, the government, literally, like mobsters with guns to the heads of these social media companies. I've seen all the discovery, forcing them to censor people like me and you. I lost my Facebook account for life during the mandates. I'm suing them myself. I was banned for life from Facebook for just speaking out for freedom. So that court decision is about to be decided right now in the Supreme Court. They heard the arguments, and the pundits are saying that Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett might side with the liberals and go with censoring free speech, which will literally change America as we know it. It's already being done, but now they're going to say it's constitutional for safety reasons to be able to censor American voices, which is crazy. And I really want to fight against that as a senator, and really fight for free speech. And the Constitution, the Second Amendment, is important to me. I feel like without it, you really castrate the American public. I think that the reason we have such a different viewpoint here in this country, where as Americans we become enraged and we feel like, we the people have a voice, is because of the Second Amendment. While I'm not a gun owner, just knowing that the Second Amendment is there makes me feel like we have freedoms as United States citizens, as was written in the Constitution, that we're able to bear arms, not for hunting reasons and not for reasons of self-defense, even though those are reasons that you can bear arms, but for reasons of a tyrannical government. And I think just that being embedded in our Constitution emboldens people. And I feel like the more that they slash the Second Amendment, the more they castrate the American public from thinking that they have a voice and that they could stand up and use their voice against the government. So I'm a big supporter of the Second Amendment, and I will not sign any legislation that restricts the Second Amendment as a senator, which they recently did in 2022 with these crazy new red flag laws, which are unconstitutional. And there's a lot of other things like medical freedom. I don't think there's anyone in the Senate besides Rand Paul who really is a voice for medical freedom. It's so important to me. I am not vaccinated. If you were, I don't judge you. Like, I just chose not to be vaccinated. That's just my personal choice. You would have to straitjacket me probably, and you probably still couldn't get that vaccine in my arm at this point because I don't want it. And then I shouldn't have to explain why. So medical freedom is something that's important to me. And I do want to have, hopefully God will bless me to have a child one day. They are not getting vaccinated with most of the stuff that they want to stick and inject into these children. So that's something I'm very much against, and I want to fight for on a federal level. You have state senators here in New York that are and state legislatures that are passing insane laws. And I don't feel like anybody's really going to bat on a federal level for medical freedom besides really Rand Paul. And I think he needs a little help in there because it's just him against like the freaking masses and the rhinos in the Senate. So medical freedom is something I want to fight for. Obviously, I would love to be able to continue to fight against political persecution. I believe that your political affiliation should be a protected class. As of right now, it's not, but your gender identity is, but your political affiliation is not. So as a Republican, the Democrats in power now could literally persecute you for your political affiliation, throw you in jail and throw away the key. And that's okay. That's legal. That's completely legitimate because your political affiliation is not a protected class. And right now we see it rampant with President Trump, with other elected officials that are Republicans and that are America First, with people that we all know, activists, me and you, probably a lot of people that are watching right now that have been censored on Facebook. That's a form of political persecution by the
Absolutely.
government, and it should be illegal, and it's not. It's completely acceptable because because of the demonization that they do, and because of the legal precedents that they're setting right now, where it's legal to literally persecute your political opponents. And shame on the Republican Party in New York for taking the playbook of the Democrat Party, what they're doing now, persecuting their actual Republican rivals in court and trying to censor them. So the
I,
Republican Party should be ashamed of themselves as well.
I remember Trump wanted to get rid of that certain ruling in the FCC, I believe it was, and for some reason he couldn't get it through because the Rhino type Republicans wouldn't allow it to happen. I think the guy that was in the head of the FCC wouldn't allow. Basically, you could sue these uh, companies like Facebook and whatnot for their censorship. And at the end of the day, we need to because they had the immunity. I forget what it was called, what the specifics of that is called. But the point is that we don't have freedom of speech. I mean, everyone thinks it's a free country, but we're heading. Look, we always follow what Europe does. We always follow. Look what Canada's trying to do. I don't know if they did it yet, but they're going to throw people in jail for what is it, for like a certain type of hate speech they're going to call, like if you misgender someone. I forget what craziness they're trying to do there in regards to. Did you hear about
Right.
that one? I forget what the
I
exact.
did. I know that with the Title IX recently, like just the Biden administration signed some modifications to it where if you misgender somebody,
Right. It's a
you
hate
could
speech. You'll be thrown in prison now.
right, or you could lose your funding or whatever. So that's just the first steps. I mean, it's been, I think, for a while going towards the direction of complete communism in this country, and it's almost like lowering a lobster into a pot. Like they're slowly doing it so nobody even realizes is what's going on, and they say it's for safety. And like
Oh,
they
please.
say Benjamin Franklin said it. Some people say he didn't, but he said I think they say Benjamin Franklin, like, don't trading somebody who wants to trade their liberty for a little bit of safety deserves neither liberty nor safety.
Yeah.
And I think that now the trend is like, oh, well, hate speech makes people feel uncomfortable. If you misgender somebody, you're making them feel
Oh,
uncomfortable.
all right.
Therefore, you should be persecuted. Or, if you don't get a vaccine for your safety, you should be persecuted. Or,
Oh yeah, and thrown in camps in New York that they're trying to do, aren't
right.
they? Right?
So that's what the trend is, I think, now, like using safety as a justifier for completely shredding the Constitution. And people have become so, like, I don't want to use the word castrated, like it sounds
Well,
sexist,
it
but they,
seems that way because I think what it was this pandemic that we just had was just a nice test run for them in the sense of how do we steal their liberties? How did and they like, well, look, all these sheep that went along with it. All
right.
right, look, oh, there's about a couple thousand that went against us. I will lose their jobs, and I don't get why us people on the right seem to be failing in all these types of battles of cultural wars and all that. It
Right.
seems like the left knows how to place themselves in every facet of life. They're your teachers, they're your government officials, they're your judges, they're everywhere. They're in corporate America. That used to be like a conservative type of place, but no, they're everywhere, and they seem to rule everything. And what do we do for a living? I don't know. Like, what power it seems like that the people on the right have, because it seems like everywhere we go. But look, keep fighting. We got to keep fighting, because if we do that, this country will be totally gone. That is why it's so important people like you get elected and get on that ballot, and people like Donald Trump get elected, because what they're doing to this man is totally disgusting. This is what they do in third world nations, going against their political enemy, trying to throw them in jail and over nonsense. And this is a travesty of what is going on. And the other day, when they finally made the final selection for the jury, the news media was so gleeful in a sense. They're like, well, the final jurist was just picked, and this guy just set himself on fire across the street. And it was mostly Trump supporters rallying in that park across there. And the guy is from Florida. And they're like, oh, thank God. Look, a cult member. Look, he set himself on fire. He's a Trump supporter. Oh, and ta-da, pictures of him with Bill Clinton, pictures
Right.
of him with a Bernie Sanders shirt on, a picture of him holding a sign against Trump and even Biden, but for whatever conspiracy theory he was going for. But the point is, the guy is a lunatic left member. I feel bad that he did this to himself. He obviously suffered from a lot of mental illness to get to that point, and I believe he might have passed away. Is that true?
He
Uh,
died. Yeah.
yeah, so I look, no matter left, right, you don't want to see that happen to anyone. It was quite disgusting to even see a video on that. And I wish him, peace in heaven. But the point is that the media was so happy and gleeful in a sense. Oh, they just finished the final, and look, he's guy set himself on fire. Sorry, we don't do that on the right normally. That
Right.
seems like the left thing. They like to do that to themselves. But the point being is that we are. I don't know where are we? What do we control? We got to keep fighting, guys, because they're trying to steal every liberty away from us, and we need people like you to fight for us.
I think that the parties have flip-flopped. The party, Republican Party, has become the middle class, regular people. And there might be some millionaires, but all the billionaires somehow are on the left somehow, and maybe Elon Musk, but who knows, but really it's become the party of the people. And that's why I really will fight hard for the Republican Party, because I meet so many people every day. I was just upstate New York, and I meet a lot of people just even here downstate that really don't, they're just the best people that just don't want the government intruding on them. They just want their basic freedoms. They just want a fair shot. They want the American dream, and that's all they want. And they're not like racist, white supremacists, like the ridiculous things that the media makes up. And that's why I hate the media so much, because they really I feel like they have divided America in terrible ways. I feel like we were in a really great place, really, until I'd say around the time of Obama coming along, where the media started just going with this narrative that like America is divided by race. And now we're more divided than ever before. And it's literally completely been egged on by the mainstream media. It's disgusting. And it's something I'll really never forgive the Democrat Party for, because the lockdowns, the forced vaccinations, and the race baiting, because me, as I'm half Asian and I live in a minority neighborhood, and just to see everybody fighting, and to have family members not talk to me anymore because I decided I wanted to start voting Republican. They're talking to me now because they're now starting to vote Republican. But I'm saying 8 years ago or 4 years ago, the stuff that I went through, just because of my political viewpoints, and the media baiting that based on race, to me is the most disgusting, inhumane thing you could ever do. And I'll never forgive the Democrat Party for really being the people who are driving that narrative. It's disgusting.
Absolutely. That is why I encourage everyone on this meeting today to join your local Republican Party, become a member of the county committee, become part of the process, so we could make the effective change within, okay? Because stuff like this, not allowing people to get on the ballot. It is healthy to have debate. It is healthy to have primaries. That gets people involved. That gets people that want to join the party because now they have a stake in it. Like, oh yeah, I want to be part of the primary. A lot of Jewish members tell me the reason why they're registered Democrats, a lot of them, is because they want to be in the primary process. Okay, and the Republicans don't have primaries, and that is one of the main reasons because they want to probably pick the lesser of two, the lesser Democrat, pick the lesser of two evils in the Democrat to represent on the regular election time. But the point is that primaries are important. It brings people into the tent, and we need that. We need people to be part of the process. We need living people to sign petitions. I've been getting signatures since 1995. So almost 30 years of doing this, and in regards to signature time. And I've been involved in politics for 30 years, 1994, when I joined the Edmund G. Sergi Republican Club and was on their board of directors. And I ran for office myself 3 times. I ran for state assembly, state senate, and state assembly again. And I know it's a tedious process. I'm also a Republican district leader of the 44th Assembly District. And it's important, like I said, to get your voice out there. And I encourage people to do so. Run for your local office, too. You run for an open assembly seat that no one wants because it always goes to the Democrat 80 to 20%. Get your voice out there and start to affect change. You need to build a foundation. And if you don't build a foundation, you're not going to have a building at the end of the day. You got to start somewhere. You got to lay that brick somewhere, brick by brick. And by doing that, we will grow this party and get our message out there. I see it in the streets now. People are upset with this illegal immigration, illegal aliens. Well, you can't say illegal aliens. I might be thrown in jail. But you know what? Illegal aliens, okay? They're illegal aliens that came through our border that's wide open because they're trying to destroy our vote. And that's the thing. I know people that work at the Board of Elections in New York State. Do you know that when you register to vote and you because now it's a new way of doing it. The old way, they didn't ask for this type of information. But now they ask for like your last 4 digits of your social security number. They ask for your driver's license number and something else, I forget. So the thing is, if you don't provide that information, they say, okay, you still register to vote. And your first time that you decide to vote, you have to show an ID card. Now that could be a state ID that they get, that just the state identification card. That's why they're pushing for illegal aliens to get this type of photo ID, so to speak. So you're an illegal alien, you got a photo ID, you could just show it because it's an honor system. They ask people, are you a citizen? Oh, okay, I'll check off the box. Yes, there's no consequence. No one gets arrested. It's an honor system. They don't check. The Board of Elections does not check to see if these people are citizens. So our elections are very tainted because you could have illegal aliens right now registering to vote. I remember Nicole Maliotakis brought this up, that they were trying to do that in these shelters. A couple months back, she brought that to light. It is true. You could register to vote. You just have to, you lie. So what consequence? There's no bail for anything, right? So people could register to vote and say they're citizens, and that is it. They could vote in our elections and sway elections. That is why they're opening up the spigot and letting everyone in. Is come on in like a big flood. They're just letting people in for a reason. There's always a reason why the leftist lunatics do what they do. They're very smart at what they do. We got to learn what they do and learn how to prevent against it. We on the right tend to eat ourselves up. They know how to stick together in these regards and get their agenda through. They're like the Night of the Living Dead. You knock them down, they'll pop right back up again in another disgusting way. We have to be on the offensive and not the defensive only. We have to be defensive and offensive. But at the end of the day, illegal aliens could vote in our elections because, at least in New York State, it's an honor system.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's a problem, and a lot of people are upset about it, like I said before. And I think that the most important thing for people to take away from this is really just educating yourself on the process of getting on the ballot. Um, my goal with this whole experience is like I want to see the next governor's race and Senate race for there to be 10 candidates that we could choose from, that we the people could choose from, regular people, people that don't have I loved Andrew Giuliani as a candidate, but he's what they call an atypical candidate, somebody that has political fame and they're able to easily fundraise. So not everybody has that opportunity. Or Harry Wilson was a millionaire. Astorino had a lot of money behind him. I'm talking about regular people like you, Glenn, being able to say, you know what, I think I would be a good senator, and let's let the people decide, and let me get up there on this. Like the requirements shouldn't be so onerous and so impossible that it would terrify one of the people on this call from saying, you know what, I think I want to run for Senate or for governor, and I would do a better job than these establishment hacks or these millionaires that have possible interests of wanting to get more rich, just a regular person. That's the way I think it was intended. And I think that people need to understand that the process is rigged here in New York, especially for the bigger seats like Senate, because Senate's an important job. There's 100 senators in the United States. They, pass a lot of legislation that across that obviously affects people around the country and the whole world for that matter. So I really feel like it's so important for the uniparty to have the person they want, that they can know they can control like a little puppet, literally, that will always vote and do what they say. If you are the Senate candidate, that's the establishment pick. And I'm sorry, it's the truth. If you're the governor candidate, no matter how good a person you are or what your good intentions were, you will never be able to effectively represent the people, because you will always owe your nomination. And if you actually get into office, like I said, the Republicans here are so happy with being in second place. If you actually make it across the finish line, which we haven't in a long time, you were bought and owned and paid for by the uniparty. You will always be indebted to vote the way that 3 or 4 men in a back room that got you there told you to, or are telling you to. You'll always have to write bills, they say. Your talking points will always be their talking points. You will never be able to effectively represent the people of the state of New York ever in your lifetime if you're the establishment pick. Hence why people need to start breaking down this infrastructure that we have, this terrible problem that we have here in New York State, and people need to start speaking out, and we need to get regular people running for office to represent the regular people.
Amen. Larry, do we have any questions from the audience in the chat area for Cara?
Yeah, we got a few questions, a lot of commentary going on, but a few questions I picked out. First one, I guess it's more, more of an opinion, but why do you think the GOP is not doing anything to stop the prosecutorial witch hunts, all these trials going on against Trump?
I think the GOP, the establishment GOP, hates Trump. They hate America First candidates. They hate everything he stands for. They're forced to pretend they're aligned with him and beg for his endorsement because they realize that he is the populist candidate that everybody loves. So they have no choice, but now they're hitching on to him. But they really hate him and they want him out just like the Democrats do. They're in lockstep with the Democrats, I believe, and they secretly want to see him behind bars, although that will never happen. That's what they secretly want. So I don't think that, any of the people who claim to be, any of the establishment people who claim to be in support of President Trump are telling the truth, and they're secretly cheering on his demise.
Okay.
That's why. That's the honest to God.
Okay.
There might be some there are some good politicians out there, and it's sad because I know how it feels. It must feel like being a cat on a leash. I like that expression, like a cat can never be on a leash. It's very uncomfortable. And I know a lot of Republican politicians that are amazing, wonderful people. They're just cut from a different cloth, I think, than a lot of people, because there's certain types of people that can actually take orders and take commands, and that once it kind of it just changes you into a different person when you have the establishment behind you. I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like you get into office, you get what you want, but at the same time, you can't be who you want to be anymore. And I think Trump broke that algorithm, and that's why they hate him so much. He literally broke the algorithm. He broke the matrix when he got into office. He did it without the help of the establishment, and that's never happened before. And that's why the whole establishment, the Republicans and the Democrats, are so terrified of him or anybody that's like him. And they'll do anything they can to keep that person out because he doesn't owe anything to anybody. And that's the way he presented himself. And that's the way he stayed. He didn't owe himself. He didn't owe anything to Mitch McConnell. He didn't owe anything to really the establishment elitists, anybody. So that's what I think that they're so fearful of and what they're really trying to suppress ever since Trump.
Okay.
Larry, any more questions?
Yeah, there's some more questions that are popping up. So, you mentioned actually algorithms. We know there are a lot of algorithms in the voting mechanisms and a lot of election fraud out there. I know we have somebody on here, Josephine, that really is a big campaign against election fraud. But will you use your platform to expose the election fraud?
I definitely will. It's something I wish as a journalist I could do. It's something that's so it's such complicated stuff, election fraud, and like Glenn mentioned earlier, somehow like the liberals have their hands in every pot. And really, I was trying to in 2020 look more into the election indiscrepancies and what happened that didn't make sense to anybody. And it's difficult because a lot of it is actually computer science, which nobody really knows about except a lot of liberals that are at the top. So it's really difficult to expose that. So I think that really the next step for me and anybody that wants to is to be in government and have access to that information that the general public and the general journalists, like I, as a journalist, use the Freedom of Information Act a lot, which has been completely destroyed by the left. They make it impossible for us to get information as journalists. You have to have a high-powered attorney, and you even don't have luck with that. If I FOIA something, they'll just say, oh, this is part of an ongoing investigation. Oh, this is a government secret. Like they literally just turn down Freedom of Information Acts. I tried to use the Freedom of Information Act a lot to get information on the 2020 election, and I was really stymied by the way that the FBI and a lot of the three-letter agencies are now not complying with freedom of information anymore. So I think that being in government, like a Rand Paul type, who like I said, him and his father are great people and heroes to me, really use their platform to investigate in a way, like when they're investigating Fauci. They use the committees to doing these investigations. It's a form of journalism within the Senate, is something that I would do for investigating elections moving forward.
We got more questions. So Glenn, did you have a comment or question?
No, you could take some more from the audience so that way they get their voice.
Okay. There is the Supreme Court case that's going to happen about the presidential immunity, which could help Trump in some of these other cases. How do you think that's going to go?
I think it's a 50-50. I think that they probably will side with Trump in this, because I think that's the right thing to do. But I think that the Democrats like that are cheering on, I think that everything always backfires. Like they're saying there shouldn't be presidential immunity. Trump should go to jail. Don't they realize that they will all go to jail after because of this? Like Obama, you will go to jail. Like Biden, you're going straight to prison once you're out of office. So like it's like I think that they're actually setting a trap for themselves, because I don't think Trump did anything wrong. Like there's nothing to get immunity for, in my opinion. He never committed a crime, whereas Biden has committed actual crimes, and Obama has committed actual crimes, and Hillary Clinton has, although she was never president. I guess this would possibly extend to her in some way, shape, or form, or her husband. So you could go back and get these guys for all of the crimes that they've committed. So they're stupidly cheering on Trump's demise, not realizing that they're possibly burying themselves. So in a way, I think that either way it goes is beneficial, because if they don't grant Trump immunity, then that means Biden doesn't get immunity. And it means that there's a very high likelihood he's going to jail because he's committed a lot of crimes. Merrick Garland has committed tremendous crimes against the American people and the prosecutions and the persecutions of citizens. And there's judges out there that have committed high crimes that should be in jail, in my opinion. That will all be hopefully sent to jail if Trump doesn't get immunity. And if he does, then it works also. So I think it's like a 50-50 shot. And I think both outcomes will be very interesting and in favor of our side, because Trump in the end didn't do anything that he needs immunity from, and Biden has.
Yeah, I hope we all pray for our President Trump, because they're throwing everything at him, and let's say he gets through all this. These people are insane. Pray for his safety, if you know what I mean. Because this is like we're in the Twilight Zone. it's almost like not a real reality that we're in the sense that the way this country has morphed. Look, our country's about to turn 250 years old in 2026. And our founding fathers have not envisioned the way we've morphed into from 250 years ago at that point. They they wouldn't recognize this country the way it's deteriorating in the sense of our civil liberties and our freedoms, freedom of speech. It's being attacked each and every day, and we need people to put people's feet to the fire in a sense of fighting back. I mean, for them to on the left, you know, the people on the left always made fun of the old curmudgeon Republican guy that would say, "Get off my lawn" and all that. You know, because they were the hippies of the '60s, the left, and they were like, "Oh, peace, love, happiness, man," and you know, freedom of speech, man. You know, we got to protest and all that, and blah blah blah. Which, you know, whatever, everyone has the right to protest. I'm just saying today, these are the most unfunny people. They have no sense of humor. That this is why Donald Trump gets underneath their skin, because he has the best sense of humor than any politician I ever met, and he gets under their skin because he doesn't care. He's not politically correct, and we need to stop being politically correct and subscribing to this woke garbage. This woke crap is destroying us as a country. What's your pronouns? All of a sudden, everyone's a English professor. I don't understand what the hell is a pronoun. Number one, what's my adjective? What's my what the hell are they talking about? My pronoun. And everyone's like, oh, and they, I'm he, him, her, he, her. What are they having a stroke or something? What the hell are they talking about? He, him, her, he, her. This is absolutely lunacy, and this is what we've morphed into, and what we allowed as a society. We allowed this to happen, okay? Because no one spoke up and said, "What the heck is this person talking about? They're mentally ill." Why are we even giving any credence to what the hell this psycho is saying? But we did. We allowed it. We as a society allowed it because the left is very smart. They placed themselves in all these positions where they could say, "Well, you'll lose your job. You'll do this. You must conform." And this is their plan, and this is what they're doing. And we need to wake up and understand that we are in a weird battle here to fight for this country. This country, like I said, is unrecognizable to our founding fathers from 250 years ago in the sense of the way liberties are being attacked. And we need to wake up as a society and end this woke crap.
Yes, I agree. I'm a former boxer, a champion biological female. But now USA Boxing, and I wrote about this, is letting men fight women. And it's like you're not hitting baseballs, you're hitting heads. You could kill women. It's completely anti-women. Where are all the feminists, you know? And if you say that, somehow they call you a TERF, a trans, I mean, I don't even know. It means like you're an aggressive, evil feminist to make a long story short, which they consider me, because I am like deep down a feminist, I guess. I'm a female. I was one of the first female boxers that ever fought. We fought so hard to get that right. Literally, there was a lawsuit only the 1990s where a woman named Dee Hamaguchi had to sue to box in the Golden Globes in New York because women weren't allowed. And now, fast forward only less, I'd say, what is it, 30 years later, less, 25 years later, now they're saying that men could actually fight in our tournaments. And it's insane to me. And I was a referee and a judge at USA Boxing, and I'm just like, I don't know if I could referee a fight when I know it's a biological man fighting a biological female, and he's calling himself a woman because he can't, you know, possibly compete in the men's tournament. So now he's fighting females, and this woman could be killed in front of my eyes. And I have to like take that, you know, it's very difficult refereeing in general. A lot of referees, if somebody gets hurt and you're a referee, it's something that you have to live with, that you didn't stop the fight sooner. Like,
Right.
how do you even judge or ref a fight with the the ridiculous strength advantage that a man has over a woman, a biological man has over a woman. So it's complete upside downness in the country. It's bad enough with the sports in general, but now combat sports, it's ridiculous. It's just completely like, in my opinion, stripping women of the rights that we have fought so long for and giving
Yeah.
them to
Absolutely.
men.
Where are the people on the left? They were the ones burning the bras in the 1970s. ERA, Equal Rights Amendment, right? Where are all these feminists? Where are all of them? All of a sudden, because, good leftist feminist, I am
They're
uh,
disappeared.
the feminist mystique, whatever, by whatever the hell her name was, Betty Friedan. Where are all these people fighting for real women's rights here, like you said, in women's sports? It's silence. It's disgusting. I could go into a woman's bathroom dressed like a man. I just felt like a woman at this moment. Are you kidding me? You could go into any college campus. If you're a student and you're a man, you could go into any bathroom. And if it's deemed woman, you could be in men's clothing. All you have to basically say is, I felt like a woman. And now you have some weird pervert in a woman's bathroom. This is what leftism has descended towards: lunacy. But we allow it. We create the laws to protect it because these psychos are your judges. These psychos are your elected officials. These are the same psychos that think in New York City that we can lower the speed limit to 20 miles per hour, or in certain streets 10 miles per hour, when these electric bikes are going right past you, going 100 miles per hour basically, and with no licenses and no registrations or anything like that. This is the lunacy of the left, and this is why we have to have people like you, Cara, to fight for sanity. And the Republican Party better wake the hell up and
Yeah.
allow these rules to stop already, because these rules are archaic. It feels like I'm in the 19th century when I'm getting a signature. I'm knocking on someone's door. Half the people are not there. Some people moved. Some people have died. You can't get a person's name off a registration list unless they're dead, and you send a death certificate if you're a family member. And they used to send it where every now and then, if you haven't voted in 20 years, whatever, they would send a letter to the house and state, all right, are you a registered voter still? Are you alive? Or you live here? And if no one from that household, meaning the new tenant that lives there, sends it back and says, this person don't live here, then that person stays on forever. Now I'm hearing from people that work at the board that they don't even do that anymore. They don't take anyone's name off. So these people's names will be, I've seen someone listed as age 174 years old on one of my lists in my neighborhood. 174-year-old? That's amazing. We should call the Guinness World Book of Records, because the oldest person recorded lived to 122 years old. How the hell we missed this 174-year-old? Because it doesn't exist. This whole thing is ridiculous. Our system needs to be revamped, and because the integrity of the vote is very important. And this is the foundation of our republic and democracy, is to make sure our vote is secured. And what they're doing here is to destroy that, because they want to control everything, the left. And they are doing a great damn job, good job, especially when you have Republicans going along with it, and these rhinos that are destroying our party in the sense of making sure the left agenda gets across. We need to fight for these rights and to make sure the sanctity of the vote is preserved. Larry,
Yes, that was a great conclusion.
thank you. Larry, is there any other follow-up question? Because we're about to conclude the meeting.
Yeah, let's get a few other questions in quickly. And again, I'm trying to cover all the main questions here without all the commentary going on in the background. So what is your views of on school choice?
Well, I believe, I have little faith in the department, I mean, in the public school system anymore. I have nieces and nephews and I've seen the curriculum and it's appalling. So I'm a very big, advocate for school choice. I think that to a certain degree, they should abolish the Department of Education and just make it so that there's schools where parents have a choice of how they're educating their kids. As a New York State, as a New York State Assembly candidate, I found out a lot about how they're really pushing agendas into a lot of the different schools, the religious schools that don't believe that the trans agenda should be taught in kindergarten and that don't believe kindergartners should be learning about multiple sexes or sex education. And they're trying to push this into the Jewish schools, the Catholic schools, the religious schools. And completely against that. I think that education is something that, sexual education is something parents should be teaching to their kids. I think that people should have choice and freedom when it comes to what it's a form of freedom of speech, really. What parents want to fall into the ears of their kids. And I think that the public schools have completely eroded that right. So I think that really school choice is very important. And everybody should have a choice of where they send their child to school and what they're being educated on.
Okay. Okay. I know this has to come up. It's a delicate subject, but what are your views on abortion? I know there's a lot of talk about number of weeks and all this
Yeah.
stuff. What's your view on abortion?
I'm personally I'm pro-life. I believe that I could say that as a Democrat, I really didn't really think much about it. I would say I was pro-choice, but I didn't really know what that meant. And I think it's unfortunate that's demonized that a woman who, women are the child bearers, for a woman to say that the sanctity of a baby is an important thing somehow has become demonized. I address the fact that it's a difficult subject to debate, which is why I think that a female has to debate a female on this, especially in this Senate race, because they will use this topic to really, I guess, demonize the Republican Party and say, oh, they don't believe in women's bodily choice. So I think that it's something that I have to put a lot of thought into how I would debate that. One of the things that I can say that I've come into contact with a lot of wonderful groups like the Sisters of Life, who are a group of nuns who teach women about other choices, and they let them know that there's other choices out there besides abortion, like adoption, like programs that will educate you while you're pregnant so that you have a good job when you have your baby, that there's healthcare, I'm sorry, that there's childcare and all of these things that women are afraid of when they're young and they're afraid and they feel like it's just them against the world and that they have to have this abortion. I know a lot of women that regret abortions. So there's groups like the Sisters of Life, the Bridge to Life, so many groups that are demonized and they're literally hid in the Google search. If you Google search other choices besides abortion, or you try to find a group that will teach you about other options or support groups, you can't find them in the Google algorithm. I found them in DuckDuckGo actually, but what will actually come up as the first thing is an abortion clinic or Planned Parenthood. It's insane. And they've really demonized these groups and they get no federal funding at all. So I could say that as a senator, I would fight for and I would vote for federal funding to give the equal funding to these groups as this gets to Planned Parenthood and obviously these abortion groups and these people that fight for abortions, which is insane to me. Get a tremendous amount of government money, and these other groups get none. So I think that we would save a lot of unborn children's lives by fighting for the funding of these groups and really teaching women about other choices besides abortion and taking that stigma and that fear away that your life is over when you have a baby. I think that that's really something that was a narrative that was created by the left and a narrative that was created by the media and by the celebrities now who are actually using abortion as something to get social accolades for. If I got an abortion, everybody is like clapping. That used to be something you were embarrassed of. And I'm not saying you should. I mean, all I'm saying is that the left has become really good at using celebrities to advocate for their fake causes like climate change and brag about abortion as if it's something that should be applauded. And I think it's disgusting. And I think that, we have to really start reaching out to the celebrities as spokespeople on the right. We have to literally I guess do what the left is doing right now. And I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that. And a lot of people, especially in the sports industries and the UFC and stuff like that, that are really leaning right and that are against abortion and that would go out there and say, you know what, I had an abortion, I regret it, it ruined my life. Like we have to get more of those testimonials from women like that, that might appeal to younger women to say, okay, well, it ruined her life and I look up to her because she's a celebrity. Like maybe we could get some more people on the right that are against abortion to start speaking out more and saying how they regret it.
Yeah, I mean, there's been over since Roe versus Wade, since 1973, there's at least about 65 million and counting abortions in this country. Why is the Democrat Party seem to be the party of death? Because they're the party of death. They like their baby. They want to kill babies. It should be only in certain circumstances where the life of the mother, in my opinion, life of the mother, or that type of thing, incest or rape. But even then, if the person wants to give it up for adoption and not have it killed, they should be able to have the resources to do so. And as you state, that these organizations that help the mother to give birth to the kid or put it up for adoption, they should have funding too. Why should it be just where they could sell baby parts with Planned Parenthood? What they were doing, the baby parts. It's disgusting. This is a party of death, the Democrat Party, and that's what they preach. They want to kill everyone off, it seems like. Look, it's in their own weird doctrine. They want the world population to be decreased. I'm not saying it. Look, ask any lunatic leftist. They believe the world population should be, diminished. They love abortion and abortion on demand. It's disgusting. And we on the right, look, I know it's a touchy subject, but we can't go away from the subject and say, "Oh, the left, oh, you're right. Oh, yeah, I'm wrong." No, you're not. We're not wrong. I'm sorry. 65 million and counting is disgusting. Is disgusting. And who's being aborted, really? The minority communities are being aborted. Right? The left loves the minority community so much. They love them. So they want to kill them off, don't they? What's going on here? People wake up.
I think that messaging, and I have to get off this call, I'm sorry, in a few minutes because I actually have another call coming up, and I really appreciate everybody for coming on today and listening to me and hearing me out and giving me a voice too to the people here in the city. Like I know, like I said, that the Republican Party has been very non-transparent about the fact that there's two other candidates that are running for office right now for Senate, and they really want their coordinated candidate in there because he is going to be controlled in every single way. And you guys could follow me. Any other questions anybody has for me, I'm very transparent. I'm very open. I'm an open book, really. And everything I've said has been on the record on Newsmax and on the Gateway Pundit, where I literally let completely just go crazy with my writing. I don't hold anything back. So if you want to see any of my opinions, go on my byline on the Gateway Pundit. I really don't hold back. And I am who I say I am. I stand behind what I believe in. And I think people respect that, even though, I'm pro-life. I'm pro-Trump. America first. I believe that, in the Second Amendment. These are all things I ran on when I ran for Assembly District 22 on the borderline of Queens, New York, with minority communities. And they're actually more in lockstep with us than you would think. They don't believe in abortions. They believe in the right to bear arms, like all this stuff that we believe, they believe. They just are being misinformed about who the parties are and what the parties are, because the leftist mainstream media is so good at manipulating and race baiting them. So really, it's just about, I think, getting out there and getting the right candidates out there to represent the party. And I think that's the most important thing. And for anybody that has any other questions for me, please, I'm on Twitter. I'm active on there because they're the least the least bad when it comes to censorship right now. So you could reach out to me on DM on Twitter. You could email me directly at caracastronova@.com at yahoo.com. It comes directly to my phone. I will answer you right away with any questions you have. You could also go to my Instagram, which I'm on 50% of the time sometimes because I don't like Meta, or you could go to my website, Cara for Senate, CARAFOR Senate.com, and you could just go into the question box and ask, you can ask me a question there. But really, Twitter and email is the best way to reach me if you want to volunteer, if you know anybody that wants to donate, so I could get on the ballot, which I plan on doing 100% and knocking this guy right out of the primary because I don't think he's qualified to be a senator, and I haven't even spoken on that, but I will at another date as to why he's not a good candidate. And if any questions like you have, like I said, I'm very open. Pretty much everybody now has somehow my phone number went public, and I'm getting text messages from multiple people. And for the most part, they're well-meaning people that just have questions, so I'm okay with it. But anybody that wants to reach out to me, please do. And I will promise you I will respond as soon as I can.
Thank you so much, Cara, for joining us here today at the Brooklyn Tea Party Zoom meeting and getting your voice out there. We appreciate everything you're doing, and we wish you good luck moving forward. We hope you get on the ballot and become our next senator for the state of New York.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody in this call. God bless you all.
Thank you, Larry. You could end the recording.